Well, I loved both of your books. I mean, I read both of them as soon as they came out. I mean, the first one I got as soon as it came out, this one I got early. I loved both of them. One thing I found so interesting is that in this one that you're putting out right now, Good Time Girl, you wrote that when it came to the first one, you were petrified to publish it. But when it came to doing a second one, how did you kind of get around that? How was this doing it this time around for you?
Well, this time around, I think I'm more excited because when I published Bad Mormon, I didn't know how it was going to be received, and it was such a great experience. Just the tour, the fans, the readers that now I know what it can be. So I'm like super excited. I'm still a little bit scared because I'm saying things that I never would have said in Bad Mormon, but are still scary for me to say now. So with every book, I'm like pushing myself as I, unpack more of the trauma that is my identity.
You did mention, obviously, your Mormonism. You covered a lot of that in the first book, but you did share some more anecdotes in this one. Do you feel like you've had this like huge impact on this trend, for Mormons in pop culture right now and speaking more openly about the religion?
I mean, I for sure have felt the impact in my life, and it feels like it's very timely. There's kind of a Mormon moment happening, and so I feel like I'm part of that whole cultural phenomenon. But when we had our book events I mean, I guess it was last year for Bad Mormon. I mean, it was through the roof to see all these people, cheering and excited to be there and reading and loving the book. So that's when I started to realize the impact that the book and kind of just my experience was having on like the bad Mormons out there in the world.
When it comes to writing about these like topics in your personal life, like for example, your ex-husband, there's a few chapters about your relationship with him. How careful are you about what to include when it comes to that topic specifically?
I've been so protective of my marriage and of my ex-husband, mostly because of the ages of my children and just the respect I have for the patriarchy and the family unit. But every year I feel a little bit more honest about what my marriage is really like. And my kids are older now. So I kind of use them as the line in the sand, like what stories they know existed and what stories I think will be impactful without, you know, damaging too much of their history. It's about my kids mostly. I mean, my history is out there for the world to read and see about, but I want to preserve as much as I can. But there were really, really hard times in my marriage, and I think protecting my kids is being honest with them about how hard marriage was, so that they don't feel like, I don't want to perpetuate the lie that everyone was perfect and we were so happy.
Yeah, and I mean, we love that you're so honest here at us. Like we always say, like you're so real about when it comes to, everything that you share on TV and when it comes like to dealing with, the backlash on social media and people, how do you navigate that and protect your peace, especially when it comes to releasing something that is so personal like this?
There's a real vulnerability, especially when I put so many like juicy morsels, talking about one night stands, talking about, really, really hard fights in my marriage, talking about my kids as babies. Like, I feel especially vulnerable that that'll be like exploited and made into clickbait. But I have to take that risk in order to like be honest about my experiences. And I just hope that, that clickbait naysayers will always be out there, but there's an ocean of people that read the book and, absorb it and love it. And that's who I'm really writing it for.
When it comes to dealing with like social media backlash, obviously, there's like a lot of some within, as we know. Is there any topics that bother you more than others when you read the comments?
Yeah, they all hurt equally. It doesn't matter if they're making fun of your looks or your beliefs or your behavior or your vomit or your hair. You know what I mean? It's like there's just so much content out there, but I'm in therapy, but I've also developed the ability to detach from social media. And so I just can put my phone down and absorb the good and try to just filter out the bad as much as possible. But the truth is, I've never met anyone in real life that has ever said anything even remotely mean to me. I mean, in terms of fans, my family has said mean things to me to my face, but so really it's more love than hate. It's just sometimes the hate can seem louder and you just have to remind yourself that. And it helps to have castmates and like friends, like that have been through it too. And that it's kind of, you can lean on them when when the waters get really choppy, we've all come into it together, all of the Salt Lake City housewives. So, when we're on good terms, it's really a shoulder to lean on.
Yeah, of course. And, you did I was shocked how, as a fan of the show, how you really delved into some of the issues with your former castmates. And I thought it was like so awesome to get to hear that side of your story, like things that we didn't know before as readers and watchers. Do you really think you got a chance to lay everything out on the table when it comes to both Jen and the Monica chapters?
I wrote the Monica chapter as just kind of a true crime, like titillating story. I wanted to honor the true crime podcasts that I listen to and the shows that I watch, and kind of let it unfold the way we experienced it. So I wasn't really thinking about that as much, about my relationship or my dynamic, as much as just let's tell the behind the scenes dirty details of reality Von Tease and everything that happened with it. But with the Jen chapter, it was obviously much more reflective, and I had more history with Jen, and I had a lot of behavior that I had to like answer for in terms of my relationship with Jen, and I'm still figuring it out. This is just like step 2 and like the 7th step, processes of grief or whatever. But I felt like the readers deserved to hear about it. And it helped me to understand, everything that went down with the black eye and with Jen by writing about it. I guess writing is my own version of processing it and figuring it out. And so I'm hoping that I can write in a way that's entertaining and titillating for the readers, because it's really the process that I love doing the most, that I work through all of my stuff with.
And the black eye, when you released your first book, that was happening in like real time. We were watching that unfold on TV. And I feel like now this is a big conclusion to that whole saga of your life. How do you feel knowing that people are going to have the full context, and maybe we could finally put that to bed for you?
I mean, I would love to put Black Eye to bed, but there's a lot of things I'd love to put to bed. And I've just chosen to embrace my failings and try to figure out how they can shape my future, but there's a part of me that like never wants to mention it again. And I knew by writing this chapter and opening Pandora's box that it can go either way, but it's how I feel about it. And it's how I wrote about it. And like, it's just out there now. Like I had to take control of the story and at least I want to close the chapter on it. I would love to.
I feel like you guys have had the most iconic explosive dinners over the past 4 seasons, and we're teasing a new one to come. Where do you think that this one we haven't seen yet kind of ranks among your explosive dinners conversations that have happened throughout the 4 seasons?
So I think it's going to rank up there. Wow. But a kind of unique thing about filming is that when you're in it, it's kind of a fog, and you remember the feelings and you remember what happens, but you don't understand the impact of it. And that was very much true with Bermuda and Reality Von Tease. Like we knew it was something major, but we didn't know how it was going to play out. So I think that I've heard from people that had kind of a bird's eye view that it's better than Bermuda, and that Salt Lake City really brought it. I know I felt it when I was there. I felt like it was like, I love these women, and I also we have a lot to work on. That was the sentiment. And I think that that those two worlds just kind of come together in a colossal finale dinner.